Breaking news this Tuesday night. The U.S. president declares a ceasefire with Iran. What Donald Trump is claiming and Iran's response. The war's financial hit on Canadian farmers. What ballooning diesel and fertilizer costs could mean. Law and order.
This needs to be a relentless focus.
How the Liberals' internal polling is influencing their policies. And the crimes Canadians want the Prime Minister to get tough on. Plus, beaming with pride.
I am so joyful.
The Canadian astronaut at Mission Control watching friends make history in space.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news. The U.S. president has tonight backed down from his ominous ultimatum to Iran. Donald Trump had warned that at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, he would start wiping out a whole civilization, as he put it, unless Iran's leadership allowed all commercial shipping to pass safely through the Strait of Hormuz. Just over an hour before that deadline, Trump posted this: subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. Critics of Trump warned his threat to destroy a civilization, if carried out, would amount to a war crime. Jackson Proskow is with me from Washington. Jackson, help us understand this latest post from Trump. What's he saying and why at the last minute?
Well, Donna, it essentially comes down to both sides making concessions. So Trump is saying that Iran must reopen the Strait of Hormuz immediately. To do that, Iran says that the U.S. and Israel must immediately stop their attacks on it. And it seems like we're in a place tonight where all of that is going to happen. Trump is taking a bit of a victory lap here, though. He's effectively claiming that the U.S. has met and exceeded all of its military objectives. And in his words, he says that they are very far along with an agreement for a long-term peace. As for why now, well, it's been clear in recent weeks that Trump has been looking for some sort of off-ramp here. Remember, he's right up against the original timeline that he set out for this war when it all first began. And now he's been looking for a way to de-escalate it. The other thing that happened, though, Donna, was today, and it felt like today was a real pivot point when Trump made that civilization-ending threat, because not only did it raise so much alarm worldwide that the White House actually had to come out and say that Trump was not threatening to use nuclear weapons, but even some members of Trump's own party started to question whether or not he was going too far.
And Jackson, Trump is calling this a ceasefire. Is that certain? What has Iran's leadership said?
Iranian leaders are accepting this tonight, but in their words, this is not the end of the war. It's just the beginning of negotiations. And they effectively say the war will only be concluded when their 10-point plan for peace has been accepted. That 10-point plan, by the way, says that all sanctions in place on Iran dating back decades would have to be lifted and that the U.S. would have to remove all combat forces from its bases in the region. You can imagine both of those things are probably non-starters. But they are saying that ships will be able to transit the Strait of Hormuz with Iranian military approval for at least the next 2 weeks. On state TV in Iran tonight, they are calling this Trump's humiliating retreat and saying that Trump has accepted Iran's terms, just to give you a sense of how this is all being framed.
Yeah, they're each going to claim victory here, no doubt. Jackson, is the Israeli Prime Minister on board with a 2-week ceasefire?
Israel is said to be on board with this, and obviously that's important because Israel and the U.S. launched this attack jointly. Again, it remains to be seen if all of this, these three parties, will actually stick together here to maintain this peace. We should also point out again that all of this does not become effective until the Strait of Hormuz has been reopened by Iran, which Iran says it will not do until all attacks against it have ceased. Donna, there is some early talk that the first round of in-person talks could happen as soon as Friday to secure a lasting deal.
Okay, still lots to play out. Jackson Proskow in Washington, thank you. The whole world has been caught up in uncertainty and economic turmoil because of the war the U.S. and Israel launched against Iran. And the threat from Trump to destroy a civilization drew a lot of criticism. Pope Leo today called it truly unacceptable. Redmond Shannon is tracking developments from London. Redmond.
Donna, the relief of this ceasefire comes after the threat of an escalation to a war that has already claimed and ruined so many lives across the Middle East for more than a month.
US President Donald Trump's deadline day for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, beginning with more US and Israeli strikes on Iran. Video from Iran's Red Crescent showing rescue workers attempting to cut debris to recover bodies. Military sites on Iran's oil hub of Karg Island also reportedly hit, accompanying Washington's use of threats to try and free up the movement of Gulf oil. Israel, pursuing its own war goals, warned Iranians to avoid trains Tuesday as it targeted rail lines it says are used by security forces. On the streets of the capital, defiance from those who spoke with state media mixed with uncertainty. This Tehran resident says of Trump, with a person who lacks sound judgment, anything can happen. This is Saudi Arabia. Iran had threatened much more of this across the Gulf had the US hit its bridges and power plants.
Escalation left unchecked will get us into a situation where it cannot be controlled. And we are very close to that point.
Perhaps a new direction of escalation on Tuesday too. At least 3 people killed in southern Iraq by rockets that local officials say came from nearby Kuwait. A US base there was hit by Iran Monday.
Secretary General is very troubled by the statements that we've heard.
As the UN stated that US plans to hit civilian infrastructure would break international law, its Security Council failed to even agree on coordinating efforts to protect shipping in the Strait of Hormuz.
The draft resolution has not been adopted.
Another US-born world leader intervened as the hours counted down.
Attacks on civilian infrastructure is against international law, but that it is also a sign of the hatred, the division, the destruction that the human being is capable of.
This deal will be welcomed around the world for what it means for peace and indeed the oil markets. However, it would appear to have no impact on Israel's ongoing ground and air assault on Lebanon. Donna?
Okay, Redmond Shannon in London tonight. Thanks. Canada's Prime Minister is among world leaders who is urging restraint today and calling on all parties involved in the war to respect international law. Mackenzie Gray reports from Ottawa.
Canada expects all parties in this conflict, in any conflict, to respect international laws, the rules of engagement, and that means not targeting certainly civilians or civilian infrastructure. And we urge all parties in this war to follow those responsibilities. It's a point we've made publicly and privately.
Publicly and privately, meaning Carney raised the issue with Trump, who also gave the Prime Minister an update on how negotiations are going with Iran when the pair spoke last week. Carney wading into what is or isn't international law is yet another evolution on his position on the war, which was originally strongly in support of U.S. and Israeli strikes, something Carney attempted to justify today.
The first point that we were making was the desirability of the ending of both that state-sponsored terrorism and the nuclear ambitions of Iran. That remains the case.
Carney has also been less publicly critical of Trump compared to many other Western leaders, which has left Canada out of the public crosshairs of Trump's fury towards allies that haven't helped him out in Iran, Donna. One less potential irritant that could impact other core Canada-U.S. issues like the upcoming free trade talks.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thank you.
The
French president says 2 French citizens detained in Iran for years are heading home. That news was met with a standing ovation at the French National Assembly. The 2 had been accused of spying in Iran and since November were confined to the French embassy in Tehran. Before that, they'd spent more than 3 years in Iran's notorious Evin prison. The French government calls the spying charges unfounded and arbitrary. A U.S. journalist kidnapped in Iraq last week has reportedly been released. Shelley Kittleson was abducted by a militia group allied with Iran. Iraqi security officials say she was set free in exchange for the release of several imprisoned militia members. In Turkey, 3 people opened fire on police near the Israeli consulate in Istanbul, sparking a gunfight. One of the suspects was killed. The 2 others were wounded and captured. 2 officers were also injured. No Israeli diplomatic personnel were in the building at the time. Turkey's interior minister says one of the suspects is linked to a group he describes as exploiting religion, but he didn't name the group. The Vice President of the United States has gone to Hungary to support Prime Minister Viktor Orban's re-election bid.
We stand for sovereignty, we stand for Hungary, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with the man who has done more to defend those values than anyone else, Viktor Orban.
Orban has been in office for 16 years and is trailing in the polls in this election. He's running against a strong center-right opponent. Vance even called up a special guest, the U.S. president, to address the crowd.
Mr. President, you are on with about 5,000 Hungarian patriots, and I think they love you even more than they love Viktor Orban.
Well, I can't believe that. I can't believe that because I love Hungary and I love that Viktor. I'll tell you, he's a fantastic man. We've had a tremendous relationship.
Orban is a close ally of Donald Trump, known for his nationalist policies and opposition to immigration. That he's being openly endorsed by Trump is extraordinary. U.S. presidents don't usually interfere in elections in other countries. Vance says he's there in part because of what he claims is disgraceful interference from the European Union. The election is on Sunday, and Vance did concede the U.S. will work with whoever wins it. Australia's most decorated living soldier is now facing war crimes charges. Ben Roberts-Smith was arrested at Sydney Airport today. The 47-year-old is accused of killing 5 unarmed Afghans while serving in Afghanistan from 2009 to 2012. He denies any wrongdoing and argues the killings occurred legally during combat or did not happen at all. Roberts-Smith was awarded both the Victoria Cross and the Medal for Gallantry for his service in Afghanistan. The pressure to get tougher on crime. Coming up, how polls are affecting the Prime Minister's latest promises. Plus, inflation is everywhere. How much it will soon cost to play Lotto Max. Prime Minister Mark Carney is vowing to do a better job fighting crime, and he's got data to explain why. Global News has obtained internal government polling that shows Canadians aren't impressed with the government's progress. The Law and Order file is one of the few where the Liberals lag behind the Conservatives. And as David Akin reports in this Global News exclusive, the Liberals are keen to close the gap.
Prime Minister Mark Carney meets police officers. He didn't have any news to announce, but it was the latest of several photo ops that he's had recently to show that his government is serious about getting tough on crime.
We're starting to see results. We're not satisfied, and we're going to keep at this.
Internal government polling obtained by Global News shows there is work to do. 55% of respondents to polls done for Carney's office feel crime is on the rise.
The level of crime is too high. I mean, you can say any level of crime is too high. The level of crime is too high.
The government's always going to be interested.
Hillary Martin helped supervise the internal polling when she worked in Justin Trudeau's office and recently polled on crime for her current firm, Earnscliffe.
Among people who said that crime was among their top priorities, they certainly do want to see more progress from the current government.
Carney has announced tougher bail rules, more RCMP officers, and he's changed the criminal code to add new crimes. And yet, when respondents were asked late last year if they had read or heard about anything the government has done to fight crime, just 17% said yes. 78% said no. So, what do Canadians want done? Well, the top answers in that internal poll, 73% agreed tougher sentences were needed for repeat offenders. 69% want a crackdown on organized crime. 67% agreed more housing for the homeless would help prevent crime.
This needs to be a relentless focus and using all the powers of the federal government.
A majority of the 6,000 respondents polled said Ottawa is on the right track on the economy, dealing with U.S. President Donald Trump, and with health care. But just 33% agreed Ottawa was on the right track on crime, and 40% said wrong track. Donna.
Okay, David Akin, thank you. Ahead, Canadian farmers brace for the impact of skyrocketing diesel and fertilizer costs. The war the U.S. and Israel launched against Iran is hitting Canada's agricultural industry hard. With spring seeding set to start, farmers are faced with soaring costs for fertilizer and diesel fuel. The average price of diesel reached $2.25 per litre this week, surpassing the record set back in 2022. And diesel is much more expensive than regular gas. Prime Minister Mark Carney said today he's looking at ways to cushion the blow for Canadians, but he offered no details. As Heather Yourex-West reports, farmers have to find a way to forge ahead.
With seed and fertilizer loaded, grain farmer Stephen Vandervalk is ready to get his crop into the ground.
We'll be ready to go probably by Thursday or Friday to start seeding. Probably won't wait till next week now with this weather.
Vandervalk's tractors rely on diesel fuel, going through thousands of dollars worth each week. The war in the Middle East has seen Canadian diesel prices rise more than 40%, hitting a record high average price of $2.32 a litre over the Easter weekend.
This is by far, without a doubt, the most expensive crop that farmers have ever put into the ground in history.
Along with the price of fuel, fertilizer prices have spiked too, though many Canadian farmers are insulated for now from that price shock, having already purchased what they will need for the next few months.
What might happen is maybe later in the season for other applications of fertilizer, if they don't have them in stock, if they're not purchased, then that might be impactful.
And while some farms have a supply of diesel in storage too, it won't be long before many Canadian agricultural operations are forced to adapt to the rising costs.
It can affect crop choices. If we think of corn versus soybean, which is a typical rotation in the Midwest of the United States, corn demands a lot more nitrogen, which is the fertilizer that's really impacted by the events in Iran.
Canola is a high use of urea, of nitrogen, and the cost of the seed, and it's just a very expensive, maybe the most expensive crop to put in the ground.
The high price of food production in the field likely to lead to higher prices down the road on grocery store shelves, as the war in Iran continues to make life less affordable for everyone. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, near Fort Macleod, Alberta.
Next, the Canadian astronaut helping guide the Artemis II crew on their epic journey. Even the cost of trying to win the lottery is going up. Starting Saturday, the cost of a Lotto Max ticket will increase from $5 to $6. The odds of winning are improving. Ticket buyers will have 4 lines of numbers to win on instead of 3, and they'll choose numbers from a range of 1 to 52 instead of up to just 50. Lotto Max says this will improve the odds of winning any prize from 1 in 7 to 1 in 5.8. The odds of winning the jackpot, though, are still remarkably low, 1 in 33.4 million. The Artemis II crew is now on their way home and is giving us more stunning glimpses of the moon and the Earth. This one released this morning showing a total solar eclipse, and that little spot with rings over on the left, that is the planet Venus. When the 4 astronauts came back from the far side of the moon yesterday, the first person they spoke to was Jenny Gibbons. The Canadian astronaut has been working as a capsule communicator, or CAPCOM, the go-between for the crew and mission control. Mike Armstrong explains how she's guiding her close friends through the biggest moment of their lives.
It has been phenomenal. I don't think I've fully processed it.
She's had the best seat in the house, not for the biggest show on Earth, but the biggest show off it. Canadian Jenny Gibbons was Capcom as Artemis II moved around the moon. Her message was the last the crew heard before communications were cut for about 40 minutes.
From all of us, it's a privilege to witness you carrying the fire past our farthest reach. Thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you for that, Jenny.
I am so joyful, so proud of them. What other joy is there than seeing your loved ones do what they love and were born to do? I feel that so strongly.
Houston, integrity, comm check.
Now, Gibbons knows every minute of this mission. She trained as a backup side by side with the crew for years. One of the things about them, she says, is how they're sharing their emotions.
Superlative thumbs up.
Whether it's when they're asked if they're comfortable with the fans on board, or sharing that tearful hug after naming a crater after the commander's late wife.
They are willing to be vulnerable. They are willing to be honest. And we can witness these really human moments
In this photo, you can see half of Earth is experiencing nighttime.
Now, the crew is starting to send more images back to Earth of what they're seeing, from the Earth tucking away behind the moon, to close-ups of the lunar surface, to a total eclipse where the crew had to wear protection as the sun disappeared.
When we viewed that eclipse, that was the one time we all said, we literally cannot capture this with a camera.
Human eyes have never seen some of those features. It's just been remote imagery, which we know human eyes can just pick up and describe so much more of what we're able to see.
Integrity crew.
Now, as an astronaut herself, Gibbons could be looking at a ticket on a future moon mission. She says she hopes Canada's commitment to space continues, and that if she has to wait close to 17 years like Jeremy Hansen did, the wait seems worth it.
The details, I don't know, we'll just have to see. Hopefully people recognize how cool this stuff is and want to keep doing it.
Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is the Columbia Valley in BC. We'd love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.